Coming up, we will meet the winner of a $250,000 environmental award for efforts to protect water on the Navajo Nation, lessons from the playing days of a Hall of Fame football player, and we learn about a plan by the government to blow up an Alaska Native village with a nuclear bomb. We'll have those interviews plus headlines ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amirawa Hopa. I am Aaliyah Chavez, and we thank you for joining us. We begin our newscast today in the land of enchantment, where the Department of the Interior is out with a new proposal that could protect land sacred to tribal nations. Earlier this week, the Bureau of Land Management announced it would like to limit new oil and gas development around 4,000 acres near the town of Placitas in New Mexico. The mineral withdrawal would last for 50 years. Both San Felipe and Santa Ana Pueblos have long worked for these protections, according to the Interior Department. Up next, the public has 90 days to comment on the proposal, with Interior Secretary Deb Haaland saying she is looking forward to hearing from local constituents on how activities like gravel mining could impact the land. When the comment period closes in December, the Interior Department will then conduct an analysis and either proceed with finalizing the withdrawal or issue a new and modified proposal. In Australia, polls show an Indigenous movement may be under threat. Support has been declining ahead of a nationwide referendum to give Aboriginal Australians a voice in Parliament just a month before the vote. The proposed change to the Constitution would give Aboriginal Australians the ability to have a say in policies that affect them. Support for the proposed alteration to the Australian Constitution has declined from 46% in August to 43% in September, and pollsters project that the measure is likely to fail. Support is strongest in Tasmania and weakest in Queensland. However, recent polling suggests that New South Wales and Victoria, Australia's most populated states, are also following a no trend. The referendum is set for October 14th. We turn now to Minnesota, where work has begun on redesigning the state flag that has long been criticized as offensive to Native people. The current flag shows a white settler plowing a field and a Native American riding away on horseback. The state legislature this year created the State Emblems Redesign Commission to come up with a new design by January 1st.
Some people don't see it as harmful. They see it as, well, there's a native there, it represents you guys, but there's also, if you look closely, there's a gun pointed at us. It may be propped up against something, but it's pointed at us, and it's just, there's a lot of things that you can take from it. But as Dakota people, there are a lot of Dakota people who take this and see it as a negative.
Unless the new design is vetoed by the legislature, the updated flag will be adopted on May 11th of 2024. In Hawaii, a group of Polynesian authors came together recently to raise money for a big cause. Over the weekend, 6 of the leading voices in Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities put on a panel at a local Barnes & Noble store on Oahu. The event was organized by the group Books for Maui. It is made up of Indigenous storytellers who are using literature as a way to raise money for the families that were devastated by last month's wildfires in Lahaina and surrounding areas. The group took to social media shortly after the fires to start an online auction. Authors involved offered everything from the chance to be named after a character in an upcoming novel to autographed copies of books. From these auctions and the in-person event at Barnes & Noble, more than $208,000 have been raised. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Jim Warne was a talented and successful athlete. He was recently inducted into the North American Indigenous Sports Hall of Fame. But more important to him than the accolades from the field is his work for the Oyate, for his people. ICT's Stewart Huntington sat down with him last week at his home in San Diego.
It was a great honor to get that notice that I was included as an inductee to the North American Indigenous Athletic Hall of Fame. And that was quite an honor, particularly when I read some of the bios of the other athletes that are included. And it was such an honor to be included with those Indigenous athletes, but it was also awesome to learn the stories of so many other Native people that have succeeded in athletics and move forward in other careers as a result of what they learned as athletes.
Tell us a little bit about your athletic career.
Well, I was always a big kid, so right now I'm 6'7", 296 as of yesterday, so I've lost 70 pounds, so I know 296 still sounds heavy, but for me, I'm skinny. But as a result of being a big kid, everyone had that expectation that I'd be an athlete. And unfortunately, when you're young and you're oversized, you're not developed enough to be able to handle a man-sized body as a child. So young, I was very slow and weak, and people looked at me as a disappointment, particularly my freshman year when I couldn't even do a push-up. So I was pushed around as a big kid my freshman year in football, but I had some great mentors, coaches, Coach Cook and Coach McBurney. I'll always hold them in high regard as mentors who got me in the weight room and trained me and gave me that confidence. And then suddenly my sophomore year, I started to dominate and then worked my way into All-State and All-American. And it was a wonderful experience being a 4-sport athlete in high school.
And Jim, you went on to play in college.
Yeah, when I had success at Tempe High School in Arizona, and then I was going to ASU games with my dad since 2nd grade. So Dad had the family season tickets, so I grew up idolizing Arizona State football players. I had their newspaper clippings on my wall, and I would dream that someday I would be one of those Sun Devils on the field. So when I got my scholarship to Arizona State and running on that field for the first time in my uniform, I could hardly breathe because of the excitement of being there. And then getting to play, and my senior year finishing off with the Rose Bowl, and then 10 days after that being invited to the Hula Bowl for All-American, All-Stars. That was a wonderful way to finish my career at Arizona State. And being able to get drafted that same year, 1987 was a good year for me. We started off with Rose Bowl championship, then we won the Hula Bowl as All-Stars, then I got drafted by Cincinnati Bengals, and then shortly after that I got my degree at Arizona State. So that was a wonderful personal experience that time, because I didn't only just succeed athletically, I achieved my degree academically.
Jim, Sports Illustrated did a story once and focused on one particular detail.
Yeah, when I was in the pros, this was actually in 1991 when I was playing with New York, New Jersey Knights with the World League, the first year of NFL Europe. And so we played all over the world, and I got a lot of attention because I was the only player that had long hair. Because after college, I decided in the pros and NFL, I started growing my hair long, which I started getting some flack from some of the NFL coaches, but because I was indigenous, because I was Lakota, I said, I'm representing my people. And so they let me have that long hair when they had made other players cut their hair. So as an indigenous athlete, at least I had that level of knowledge that, the hair meant something more than just a look for a football player. And with the Sports Illustrated article, they titled it Urban Indian, and they focused on my waist-length hair flowing from my helmet. And I didn't have waist-length hair, but they just concentrated on the hair. And then fortunately, I was able to get in some of the information as a young advocate as to who we are as Native people. So I'm glad at a young age I was still able to address some of the stereotypes, not only in athletics, but in general society.
That's a big part of your life today, spreading the message.
Yeah, and that's a great segue, because after being a professional athlete, there's a big transition time. A lot of guys have struggled, and I did too, trying to go, okay, I'm no longer the star athlete, who am I? Then I realized I'm Oglala Lakota. I have an opportunity to use this platform not only with my degree at the bachelor's level, but fortunately having parents that supported me and advocated for me to get my master's degree. And as a result of getting my master's, suddenly I had job opportunities to create programs for Indian country addressing disability and public health disparities. And I've been doing that for 30 years at various universities. And it's been a very rewarding, I wouldn't really call it a job, but it's a mission, I think, a responsibility that I was taught from a young age as a Lakota is, what are you going to do for your people? So I represented as an athlete and was honored just recently as an athlete, but recognized as an academic and an advocate, as well as being able to be a teacher through the medium of film. With my filmmaking, I'm able to teach through film.
Jim, do you have a particular message to a young Native athlete right now, dreaming big?
Yeah, I remember I was usually the only Native on my team, so a lot of Pacific Islanders would adopt me. But there's more and more of us I see on TV on different sports, not only football, but a variety of sports. So I feel Black Elk was right when he said it would take 7 generations to heal our circle, our sacred hoop after Wounded Knee. That's the kids of today. And you're seeing them not only perform in the world of athletics, but academically, young advocates. And I firmly believe, and I've been saying this for years, that a member of the 7th generation will be president of this United States. I believe it, and it could be one of you.
Jim Warne, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, and keep up the good work at Indian Country. Palami awashte.
In 1961, Alaska natives from Inupiat and Yup'ik villages came together to oppose a crazy idea, a government plan to explode an atomic bomb in Alaska to construct a new port. That meeting would spark the creation of a newspaper and an Indigenous rights movement that will never be forgotten. ICT's Joaqlin Estus has the story.
The film Oppenheimer shows U.S. scientists racing to develop the atomic bomb during World War II. It also hints at their next race, to find peacetime uses for those weapons of mass destruction. That's when the Atomic Energy Commission proposed the use of nuclear bombs to alter the course of rivers and move mountains. A test run was needed, so scientists decided a remote area in Alaska would work. What they didn't know was that the experiment would ignite a full-blown Alaska Native claims movement. In 1959, the commission selected a site near Point Hope, a village of a few hundred people above the Arctic Circle on the Chukchi Sea. Physicist Edward Teller's Project Chariot would set off 2.4 megatons of nuclear bombs to create a deep-water port. The bomb, which was 160 times the size of the explosion that destroyed Hiroshima, would irradiate and blast 64 million tons of earth. Calculations ignored the people of Point Hope, just 31 miles to the northwest, and their food. Economist George Rogers advised Teller that Native people relied on the land and sea for sustenance. In response, the physicist said the harbor would support coal mines, and the locals could become coal miners. The project was one of many actions that pushed Alaska Natives to fight for their rights and land claims with new energy. Inupiaq citizen Francis Degnan said talks about Project Chariot spurred Inupiat and Yup'ik representatives to meet in November 1961. Delegates brought up the total destruction of their way of life and other issues: schools, jobs, housing, changes to fishing and hunting regulations, and the need for economic development. Out of the conference came a resolution to get a newspaper going to link otherwise remote, isolated villages. That's where the Tundra Times was born. Inupiat citizen Howard Brock of Point Hope was nominated to be the newspaper's first editor. A donor, Dr. Henry Forbes of the American Association of Indian Affairs, funded the formation of the paper, which called for congressional action to fight land grabs. It had a very small circulation, but many of the newspapers went straight into the hands of bureaucrats and politicians. Brock shared Indigenous ideas on politics, Project Chariot, and later land claims. In 1968, Interior Secretary Stewart questioned whether the claims movement would have succeeded without the Tundra Times. Udall went on to say the newspaper alerted the conscience of the nation to the potential consequences of reckless experimentation by stressing the dangers of atomic fallout and the plight of the Native people involved. Project Chariot was never able to get rolling. In 1962, it was abandoned.
One of his remarkable properties was that he was familiar with world literature, including the Hindu Bhagavad Gita. And in his response to the press, he quoted the god Shiva. I have become death, the destruction of worlds.
However, it did spark a test on how nuclear materials would spread through the Arctic environment. After archival research uncovered that experiment, residents demanded a cleanup, which the Department of Energy conducted in 1993. The Tundra Times ended publication in 1997 after it lost Native corporate funding, but its impact will live for many generations.
People really get excited, going from place to place, from party to party. Very great happiness. The job is done.
In Anchorage, Alaska, Joaqlin Estus, ICT News.
A Navajo water protector has won the 28th Heinz Award for the Environment. The prize includes a cash grant of $250,000. She is co-founder of Sacred Water Speaks and has worked to protect aquifers, streams, and land that has been impacted by decades of coal extraction on the Navajo and Hopi nations. ICT's Mark Trahant reached Nicole Horseherder virtually. She was at Black Mesa, where she lives off the grid.
Well, let me just start with congratulations.
Thank you. Well, it's always good to be recognized for the work that you do. It came as quite a surprise. So we began our work as water protectors here on Black Mesa. We fought hard to get the mining company and the associated coal plant off of Navajo water. It was a very intense, and it was an effort that took a number of years to finally achieve, and we did it. TNA, our organization, Twanzhana TNA for short, led a lot of the effort. Once the coal company got off the water and eventually had to shut down because it didn't have another supply of water, we then turned our efforts to trying to raise more awareness, create policy, and try to end the industrial use of Navajo water, because out here in the Southwest, we're limited to about 8 inches of rainfall a year. I think, places, especially our Indigenous brothers and sisters who are like, say, on the East Coast or the Northwest Coast, probably don't understand the issue is here. We don't have rivers and streams up here on Black Mesa. We rely completely on the groundwater and the rainwater. So when mining comes in and taps into the groundwater and starts using excessive amounts, and we lose our springs and our seeps, the people naturally will rise up and defend the water source. Today we're engaged in just transition effort. We have to be at the forefront of the energy replacement for these coal plants that are shutting down and have shut down. We have to say what the future economic development is going to look like. We have to fight hard for sustainable development. We have to control how transition happens here. There's no one else that's going to advocate on our behalf. We can't ever be in a situation again where industry dictates how our lands and our resources are used.
I think it's important for people to know how great a price Black Mesa has already paid with water.
I think the people who live here understand that a whole lot better than the people who benefited from the energy that was created. The energy flowed to flowed to 2 other states besides Arizona. And I don't think that people out there truly understand what the Navajo people and the Hopi people have done. The water that was used is the headwaters of Black Mesa. This is where this operation began. This is how people in the Southwest were able to get cheap electricity. Going forward in the future, it's going to be important that communities start being more sustainable. If you're a community that's importing your energy and importing your water and is looking a lot to outside companies and outside resources to meet your needs, you're going to have to do this in a different way. Each community has an obligation to get as much of its needs met locally as possible. Up here on Black Mesa, we have spent the last 48 years, close to 50 years, supplying the coal from our lands and all the water needed to support it for 2,250 megawatts, one of the biggest coal plants west of the Mississippi. This has had tremendous impacts on Black Mesa. And for a city like Phoenix that has the political backing of representatives and senators to divert water from the Colorado River to meet the needs of, the town of Phoenix, the city of Phoenix, which just exploded in the last 50 years. This is unsustainable. These people don't understand how they got the cheap electricity. These people don't understand what's happening upriver by diverting so much water into the city. These types of structures, while they're touted as the biggest, water projects in the world, great minds have come together to solve the Southwest water problems. In the long term, there's going to be tremendous, huge adverse impacts from such projects as this. And we're here in Arizona, we're just beginning to understand the impacts to Black Mesa. Everybody just talks about just the jobs and the revenues. That it doesn't stop there. Projects like coal mining and coal plants the impacts of coal mining and coal plants don't stop at jobs and revenue. These kinds of projects have huge environmental impacts, health impacts. And, at the end of the day, when mining stops and power plants shut down, the people are left with a deficit. And that's the way we sit here today on Black Mesa.
Nicole Horseherder, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Be sure to join us on the weekend edition of the ICT Newscast. We will hear from Tamara St. John on how she was able to get the remains of her tribal ancestors returned home. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.